Hi and welcome back to another Amazon selling video. My name is Nikki Kirk and I am back in Oregon. I'm at my parents' house, not because I'm staying here again, but because the campground we're at, Shampoo State Park, is very loud. Like, everyone decided to come outside when I was going to start recording my video, so I decided to head over here and to this familiar back porch and record some videos for you. So today is a much requested video all about the new Amazon shipping process called Send to Amazon. And you know, it's just like that when we're all getting used to and knowing and not really loving, but it's working, right? How to do the old shipment process, and then now they come out with this new one, which unfortunately will roll out across the board. So a lot of people were asking me about it, and you can still do the old way of sending to Amazon your FBA shipments. So I'm talking about FBA today. You can still do the old way, but they will eventually force us all to use this way. So it's best to learn it if you can. So today I'm gonna walk you through how to use Send to Amazon. As always, I am just a seller like you who is trying to help you guys out as much as I can. So I've done the process. I might miss some things. There might be some things I got wrong. So if I did anything wrong or you know a way around it, please let us know. Send to Amazon has been out about a month now, and so there are some things that are working on, and I'll go over what's not working and what's to come in this video. But as of right now, this is how you do it. So on the old way of sending FBA shipments, you used to be able to add a product, like a brand new listing. I'm not talking about adding a whole product, although that would be the same thing, but just adding your listing to an existing product page. You could add it, and at the end of the process, it would say, do you want to include it in an existing shipment? And you could decide which one, or it would be create a new shipment if you didn't have any going. From what I can tell, this new way does not have that. Literally every time I went to add a product, it would add a new workflow. And unfortunately, you can only have 9 workflows at any given time. So I was literally, as part of the adding a product process, I was having to void out the workflows because, again, you can only have 9. And I don't need every single individual one on its own workflow. And so that part is really annoying, and I hope they fix that because that seems really weird. So like I mentioned, as I was going through the workflow, I would add my product, you know, normal, adding my SKU and all that, add my offer, my price, and then I would literally go through, is this dangerous goods? No, and then I would have to void out the workflow as the last step. So it's an extra step, which is of course dumb. No one wants to be doing extra work, but that's how I'm doing it right now. So what I did was I went ahead and added all my products, voided out the workflow, and then at the very end, when everything was there, I went to manage inventory, and then I hit to send replenish and just created one massive workflow from that, as opposed to where I used to be building on top of it. Now this is one area where I might need to change going forward. I'm undecided, but what I mean is, some sellers will actually add a product listing on their phone in store. Now, I don't do that for FBA. I do it for FBM, but not for FBA, because for FBA, I like to make my own SKUs, and I use RevSeller and the desktop version or laptop to do that. So that's something I never did, but I will say, I mean, I could use the app to figure out my break-even price. So it might be something that I do going forward where I just create the listings in store. I really don't like adding extra work in store because sourcing is my most favorite thing, and the packing and all that is not so fun. And so I like to keep that on a separate day. So it might be something that I do going forward. If you don't make SKUs, then it's probably really easy just to list it in store, but I like to make my SKUs. And as a quick reminder, because I've had this asked a few times, and I do have it in a couple videos, but I'll just go over it anyways. The way I make my own SKUs is that I do the store I bought it from. So on this example, I got it from Dick's, and then I do the price I got it for, and then I go ahead and say BE, that's my abbreviation for break even. So again, you can make up your own SKUs, your own abbreviation, whatever works for you. And then I do the break even price. And how I get that is from RevSeller. It's super easy. You just go to this little target symbol right here, and you click on it, and it'll tell you your break-even price. And I want to know the break-even price because I want to know what's the lowest I can go, just break even. Like, I get my money that I paid for the item, and it covers Amazon fees. What is that price? That's like my lowest price I want to sell it for. Of course, sometimes you have to take a hit and sell it for no profit, or you know, under profit, because that sometimes you make bad buys, and believe me, that happens to everyone. But in general, the break-even price is really helpful. So I know if I'm going below, say it's like $12.99, if I'm going below $12.99, I know I'm now losing money on this product. And like I said, the SKUs are only for you, and they go across board. So when you're in your manage inventory, you can see your SKU number that you gave it. And so now that's how you know your break-even price, and you can price your products accordingly. It also transfers over to any web developer app type things you use. So I use Sellerboard to track my product and my profit, and I can see my SKU and I know how much the item costs there on Sellerboard. So it's really helpful for me for that. Making SKUs is entirely optional. You don't have to, but I would recommend it. Now, my overall opinion on this new Send to Amazon workflow is that I can see what they were trying to do. I can see the good it might eventually be, but overall it's like more cumbersome and clunky, and it's causing me to do extra steps, which no one wants extra work, so that's really annoying. But I can see some aspects that are kind of cool, and I'll go over those as we go through the workflow. So like I mentioned in this example, once you add your product, it's going to add it automatically to the new workflow. So here we've got my new workflow, and you'll see this yellow prep and labeling details needed. Unfortunately, you're going to have to fill that out for every single item, even items that are already existing. On the old workflow, if you remember, you could hit prep all and it would say, you know, if there's no prep needed, you could do it for all of them in that shipment and it would do it all. You have to do each one individually now. But the good thing is, if you do it during this process, when you are sending and creating the listings, you don't have to ever do it again. So it can be a one-time thing. But if you do have a lot of stuff that you've already have in inventory and you're replanning, you are, for one time only, going to have to go through and individually do each one. So then you would just hit save on that, and now it's asking you for the quantity. And this is the point where you have to go back and void the workflow, because you're not going to be able to add any new ones to it. Now, if that was your only new item and you want to go add everything to the existing inventory that you already have, that makes it really easy. You can actually just go over here to all FBA SKUs, you click that, and all of your FBA SKUs are there. So now we're just going to hit, and we're going to say I'm going to send, you know, 10 units of this, 20 units of this, whatever your units are. It's really easy now, and once you hit the units, it's going to say ready to pack, and you just hit confirm, and it's going to move them over onto this other tab, your SKUs ready to send. Now, if your item has an expiration date, this is the area now where we are inputting that into the shipment. So again, this is something where now you're only having to do it one time, and it's not multiple times like you're used to, but there's a lot of confusion about expiration dates. So really quickly, I'm going to go over that. If your product does not have an expiration date, but Amazon is asking for one, I just make one up a year or two out. It's typically beauty products, and they'll have a little symbol on them that say it's good for 12 months after you open it. So for me, I just make one a couple years out. Now, if it does have an expiration date, or you have like, maybe you have coffee, and the coffee you have like all these different boxes of K-cups, and there's like 3 or 4 expiration dates. What I do is I just pick the closest one, because obviously the other ones are fine, and you need to have everything, you know, within 90 to 120 days or further out to be able to send FBA. But that's how I do it. I just say, make up an expiration date if it has one. Now, some people ask me if I label them myself. I did not make the product, so I'm not comfortable putting a label of expiration on there, because I have no idea really, right? So I'm not going to tell the customer when it expires by, so I don't personally label my own things. If it needed it, like by a legal standpoint, the brand would have put it on there. And so that's just me. Just so you know about expiration dates, when you have to go put it in, just pick the closest one if you have multiple. Now, if you get units wrong, or you found some that you forgot to count, or whatever it is, you can just go ahead and go back and hit modify or cancel. Now, the thing that happened to me was I actually bought some stuff that I couldn't send in FBA. Didn't know that till I started to make the shipping process, but when it errored out, I was like, okay. And so you just go ahead and hit remove, and it'll still show up on your process, like the photo, and it'll look like it wants the expiration date or units. But once you've hit removed, it's fine. It won't go forward into the next step, but it is a little confusing because it won't go away like it used to when you would exit out. As with anything that you are trying or learning for the first time, it's best to go slow and do it when you have some extra time. So for me, I knew what I was getting into. I had already kind of walked through it before I started my first shipment doing it. But you're gonna get frustrated, and you might have to Google or look for a video that shows you what you're doing. You know, things are gonna happen. So definitely recommend going through it all, pretend you're gonna put a shipment together, but you don't actually have to. You can use whatever inventory you already have and just pretend and just kind of walk through and get a feel for it. I did make sure to like triple count, and like before I hit any kind of submit, I made sure I counted and packed everything and made sure I got everything off the counters, because there's been some times where I'm like, oh shoot, that thing over there that I didn't see. So I went slow, counted, double counted, and made sure that I had it all, because it is confusing. This whole process is so different from how it used to be. So once all you have your items in, you'll go ahead and hit this button here where it's giving you the SKU count and the item count at the bottom, and right next to that is where you're going to print your labels. Now this is the step where you're going to print all your labels for your entire shipment, and you can actually come back to it and do it. So if you miss it, just go ahead and come back to this step and print your labels. Now the cool thing about the new one is that you can actually print labels kind of throughout the whole entire process, but it won't let you print them all at once. It's like print a couple extra here, which I did not know how to do until last year, how to go back and print labels. So this would be really helpful for me back in the day when I didn't know how to do it, because you can easily print. So maybe you ripped the label on accident, done that, or you put it on the wrong thing and then when you went to take it off, it ripped, also done that. So if you need to print like one or two extra, it does make it a little easier. You can just go next to the item and hit print. I also like now that there's a photo next to it the whole entire way, because that is really easy to, you know, visually see what it is. You can also figure out how you want your thing to look. So there's only a certain amount of different things you can add. So you can take the photo away if you don't want the photo. You can add your FN SKU if you want your FN SKU. That's not really helpful to me personally, but maybe you want to know what it is, so you can have that. You can change all your little options right here. Okay, now back to the labeling. So I now use a Rollo. If you didn't know, it's awesome and I love it, but the Chrome extension currently does not work with Send to Amazon, and I did contact Rollo seller support and they were telling me that they are working on it. So as of this video, it's not there, and because I was trying to film the whole process for you, I had to figure it out. So all I did, if you want to use your Rollo right now, what I went back to is the manage inventory page and selected all my products and hit print label from there, from the drop down. And then I entered in my units, how many I had, and printed the labels there, because the Rollo extension will work there. But even though it showed up on the individual, so it showed up on the individual, the Rollo button. If you don't use a Rollo, I'm really sorry that I'm going through all this right now, but a button pops up that you say print it for the Rollo, and it'll format for whatever label you have. Now the problem was that it's popped up the button, but when I went to do it, it's really just doing a 30 up label still. It wouldn't do the old way of how the Rollo, it doesn't do that converter because it doesn't work yet. But I was excited thinking, oh, it's working. So as of right now, it's not actually working. So you have to go do it another way, or if you have a printer and your old 30 up labels, you can just do that while Rollo figures it out. I'm hopeful that there's a lot of sellers who use it, and so they'll do it. Like they knew, they were like, yeah, we're working on it. We know we have a lot of Amazon customers, so hopefully they'll have it out. Now, if you're confused about what I'm talking about as far as labels, I'm talking about the FN SKU labels. I have a whole video I did on why you want to use them versus merchant barcode. So merchant barcode is the UPC, FN SKU is the Amazon barcode. You always want to do Amazon in short, because that means your customers are getting your product, not some other seller's product. But if you want to know more, I'll link it here. I recommend highly printing an FN SKU for every single one of your products. Even if Amazon says you don't have to, you should do it. Okay, so once we've got it all ready to pack, I moved on to the next one. So this next screen is showing you your shipment breakdown. So it's really easy and nice because it shows it in 2 boxes. So I had one shipment of shoes, which if you didn't know, shoes always go to one warehouse. So they all went to one warehouse, and everything else went to a separate warehouse. It was quite nice having everything go to one warehouse. It made it easier. I could see how it would be more annoying to have been broken out like everything else into 2 or 3 different warehouses, so I'm not looking forward to that. But for this first one, it was nice that everything went there, and now you can box it up however you want. So at the first one, my shoes were all going in one box, so that was easy. I just went ahead and select one box for everything. And then my other one ended up being 4 boxes. So all you do is you say how many boxes you have. I have 4, and then it'll give you an Excel sheet to download. Now, the web form that we're all used to when you have under 50 SKUs is coming soon, but right now it's not there, so you do have to use the Excel form. I use a Mac, so I don't have Excel, and I don't like numbers, so all I do is upload it into Google Sheets. And you guys, it's really easy. If you've ever had a big shipment of over 50 SKUs, not products individually, but 50 different kinds of SKUs, then you've already had to do this, and it's a little easier now actually, because you don't have to put the expiration date on that form. It's just the quantity that's going in every box. So if you've never had to do an over 50 shipment, I understand that it is frustrating because I was there when I first had to do it, but it's actually a little easier. It's not as easy as having it on the web form, but it is pretty easy. So all I do is upload it to Google Sheets, input what is in which box. When you get the web form, fill it out, you put in your weight and your dimensions, and then you just download it back as an Excel sheet from Google Forms and upload it to Amazon. If there's any errors, it'll pop up. So I accidentally put a measurement where it wanted the weight, and it was like, no, that's not right. It knew that it was wrong. So I was like, okay, and then I went back, and it tells you where it's wrong, so it's pretty helpful. Then you upload that, and the next step is your shipping labels. Luckily, this did work for Rollo part, and I just printed all the labels and dropped them off at the UPS store. If you are doing a small shipment or you are just starting out on Amazon, I would actually recommend testing out this new workflow and learning Send to Amazon, because they will make you do it eventually. And honestly, I'd rather only know how to do the one thing than have to learn one and do the other one. So definitely mess around with it, get in there, see how it's working. You don't have to actually make a whole shipment, so you can test it out and see, and then just delete or void the workflow out later. I really recommend testing it though, because they do tell you that they are eventually going to roll it out. Now, if you want to use the old way, you still can. At the pop-up at the top, it'll say click here for the old way. And if you accidentally X'd out of that, if you go back to your workflow, it'll pop up again, that pop-up, because I X'd out to see how you would go about going back to the old one, and it just popped right back up for me. So definitely test it out and see if you can do it. Get the frustration out, maybe have a glass of wine handy, I don't really know, however you deal with frustration, but it is going to be difficult learning something new. As always, Amazon is always changing things, so I really wanted to help everyone who was asking, because if it was not for you guys asking, I would be using the old workflow, because that's just how I am. I want to keep using the stuff that I know and that worked. But so I guess it's a good thing that I'm learning it for you guys along with you guys. So I hope this video was helpful. If you want more in-depth how to do stuff, how to get started selling on Amazon, I have my beginner FBA course, which goes over, it's got 10 different modules. It goes over everything from opening your account to sourcing to sending products and beyond. It comes with a really awesome community of sellers. It's all on its own app, so it's definitely worth it if you want to check it out and you want help from me. I'm in there answering messages and answering questions in the group, so definitely check that out. And as always, if you need help getting ungated in anything from premium brands like Adidas, Nike, Jordan, Adidas Original, or you need help just getting ungated in the categories like topical, grocery, or toy, I have my ungating guides, as always, new sellers friendly, new seller specific. All the links are below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope this video was helpful. Happy sourcing and happy hunting.